Hey guys, Tail Talk here, and today I'm bringing you a new blog post update. I know I missed the one on servers, and I still want to make a video about this, but it's really hard to allocate time for this, so you'll just have to be patient. Anyhow, let's get into the blog post. So the topic of this blog post is the block tag, or what you will be able to do with these blocks. First thing we have here is what they call RGB tints, and with that you can basically color any block you want, in any color. This is a feature I didn't expect, and to be honest, I also don't want. It's nice when you integrate it into the world, but these are like the tools where I think that it will just overcomplicate things and might get overused a lot. But again, here only time will tell. Luckily, as it seems, the RGB tool will be only available in the creative mode or as a part of the creative tools. Now, of course, in the image they showed to us, they gave pretty extreme examples. And if you didn't know, Minecraft actually also has this feature. It is just that you can't manually change them. And in Hytale, this feature will work very similar to what we saw in Minecraft. So, like in the swamp biome, you had like bluish grass, whereas in like other areas, the grass almost had a yellow tint. And this is exactly what we see here in this image. Theoretically, you can use the RGB shift to create more variety, so that you apply a random hue shift, for example to every tree, so that every tree has a slightly different color. Just an idea. Next up, there are transition textures. To me, this is nothing new, and if you watched my other videos, you already know that. Basically what they did here are like texture overhangs, to break up a little bit of the blockiness. I mean, I was fine with the blockiness in Minecraft, but this actually seems like a pretty neat feature. I would just like to know how they determine which block's transition is on top, because when you build something this can be important. But again, it looks really good. Then next up there's the incorporation of the Hytale model maker. And from the looks of things, in contrast to Minecraft, where every ore block is a specific texture without an alpha channel, the Hytale models seem to be overlays. Now this is really great. Because of that, ores can grow on anything, and not only on stone, but any block without changing anything. And they also got this sheen tint, or like this shininess or glowing effect. This should make ore hunting a lot easier. Now I wonder, if we want to collect them, do we need to break the block or do we just pick it up? I could imagine both, and to be honest, I don't care. Both methods seem good. By the way, these blocks with the ores on top, they're called hybrid blocks, because Hytale has the blocks that are customized 3D models and the blocks that are just blocks. And then there are of course the hybrid blocks, so like the ores on top of the block. Just a little fun fact to mention. And while we're on the topic of non-standard blocks, in Hytale we also get submersible blocks, so no fences that block off water. This also allows for underwater plants as shown here. And if you look a little bit closer, we can also see waves here. I don't mean the painted on waves, I mean the actual physical waves you can see in the back. Like you can see a kind of a curvature, just a small little detail. Okay, now we come to the foliage, or the variety of them. As I have already explained in other videos, the leaves of the trees are actually no blocks, but use another pretty common 3D shape. This special shape incorporates 3 planes aligned along each axis, and with the right textures, you get the illusion of a complicated 3D model from each side, without actually having to render all the polygons. Now, in this case, they used these models to create foliage, or leaves. And to create more variety, the leaf block is also randomly rotated. I don't know if they just refer to the block, or if they also mean the textures, because when rotating just the block, we get 6 possible configurations, whereas with textures, we should get about 64, or even 512 when we mirror the textures. Of course, these textures will still look alike and very similar, but still, it's a lot more than 6 configurations. Okay, so the next thing are ambient animations. As you can probably see, we have the wavy animation of the grass and the leaves, and of course also of the character. But if you look a little bit closer, there's another effect that a lot of people probably miss, mainly because it's not stated very clearly in the description. When you read there, the effect you can see on grass or leaves is done on the shader level. It's a vertex displacement formula based on the presence of nearby entity. Now, of course, I know this sounds very cryptic, but what that basically means is that the grass swings aside as you come close to it. This happens on the GPU and does not affect any hit detection or anything like that. It's just a visual effect. And it looks so freaking cool. I still remember the first time I noticed such an effect in a game, and that was a AAA game. Battlefront 2015. I was so flashed by the leaves reacting to my movements, because I actually felt that this was missing in games. So I'm really flattered to see what we have here. Great small little details that do not affect the performance like at all, but they make the game feel much more alive. Another cool little detail they showed here are particle effects. In this specific case, we're talking about the effects when breaking a block. What we get here are kind of sparkly particles that, when you look close, also depend on the material. So, for example, the stone and the sandstone have very similar like rock-type particles. The mushroom and the grass block have more of a dust cloud, so really small particles that are also not affected by gravity. Then the wood, that is more similar to the stone, but the particles are jumping a little bit further. And what I noticed just now, we also see some kind of motion blur. And then the sand is a little bit interesting, because we get a dust cloud that is very similar to the grass, but with the dust cloud animation texture, so not the actual particles, we get a very different animation here. Because when you look at the other ones, we see a dust cloud that is kind of moving upwards and growing in size, and then the sand has a dust cloud that is sinking towards the ground. So when you're creating a block yourself, you will likely be able to define a block type. So like really sandy and dusty, rocky, hard but splintering when breaking, and so on and so on. In specific, they talk about particle block event sets that you can link to blocks. So these are like the categories I talked about, and they define a number of actions. So for example, breaking a block, or interaction, or really anything you could imagine. And then you can link these effects to specific blocks. You can also link them to multiple block types, and then they're applied in the game. Minecraft also has similar particle effects. So for example, when walking on something, or when starting to break something. I also wonder how they determine the color of the smoke. Maybe they take the average of the block, or you may be able to define it on your own. We'll see. Also a fun little thing, it looks like grass doesn't degrow under trees, or maybe any block type. Not sure how relevant that is, but it was annoying in Minecraft, so I thought I'd mention it. So, last thing I've got are interactions and animation states. This is an area where Minecraft really wasn't strong on. I mean, the most advanced effect we've seen is like the Minecraft chest open animation. I mean, yeah, the various creatures have their own animations, but the only thing you really encounter in terms of blocks really boils down to the chest. And a lot of that has just to do with the Minecraft engine not being designed for it. When they started the engine, they didn't know how long they would use it. And judging by the fact that they used Java, I think they planned on using it for like half of a year at maximum. But as you all know, Minecraft became the second most popular game in the world, and they never changed anything under the hood. With Hytale, however, these people have already had all the issues of building any mod. So they designed the engine specific for their needs and to make everything as easy as possible. So for example, the animations. So let's take the door for example. When you click on it, the doors instantly open. The opening animation is just a visual thing. The same as when you close the door. The actual physical door is instantly closed. What you actually see in terms of animation is just a visual thing. Also, by the way, when you open the door, the block is essentially changing. And while that might seem counterintuitive at first, you'll have to remember that the Hytale engine is made for changing blocks. So that process is really efficient. And just swapping out the block gives you the most flexibility. Because with that, you can have blocks that are warping towards each other. And you just have a lot more freedom. The animation itself is just a keyframed animation, which I also demonstrated previously. And again, this is another area where you see what having a good editor can do good for the game. I mean, let's say in terms of door animation. Minecraft had a mod for that. However, the person that made the mod had to do it in software, so essentially hardcode the animation. And because of that, the animation was very basic. Same thing with the animated player mod. When you have to hardcode things, you just don't get the feeling of applying animations and so on. It's just a lot more difficult. Whereas here, they first implemented a model for an animation file, then they made the engine that could read it, and then they built an editor. This takes longer at beginning, but when the project grows, it really shines. And I think the Hytale team did a great job at animations and visuals in general. So again, the more we see from Hytale, the more it becomes clear that essentially the base game Hytale is just a mod for their engine. Essentially everything you see is made in the editor, and you will be able to do the same. Now I wonder if we can throw out all the base stuff, for example if we want to make a more modern setting. We'll see. So this is Hytale's block tag. The more I see from this game, the more promising it looks. And I don't know how I will survive the time until the beta. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to me or leave a like. I know I'm not the fastest on news, and by the way my server tech video is still coming, but I'm making these videos in my free time. And you probably won't see me taking any sponsorships or anything like that. I'm doing it because I enjoy it, and I hope to keep that. Other than that, keep talking, and until the next time, Tail Talk out.